All right, time for another draftphysics.com, debatephysics.com also. But no one can debate on the subject. So, I mean, the subject is whatever, how green is grass, and the idiots want to argue how wet is water. And it's just no point. So, this stupid Leska idiot has emailed me, and he's trying to make this argument that Newton and Descartes didn't fundamentally agree with Leibniz. And of course they did. And that's why there was a whole group of people called Descartians and people called Newtonians, is because there were groups of people who argued this. And it was a whole vis visa controversy over this exact thing, whether mv squared is conserved. And clearly all the Newtonians and all the Descartians said, of course, mv squared is crap, and the only thing conserved is momentum. And then de Chardonnay got into the whole thing, and and so it was a real controversy. It wasn't non-existent, and it wouldn't exist as a controversy if any of the crap you're spewing, you little lying weasel, were true. So if Newton was really a Leibnizian, there wouldn't have been an argument. And if Descartes was really a Leibnizian, why would Leibniz write to the king saying, "You've got to stop Descartes and Newton"? He wrote to the king to say they got to stop Descartes and Newton because their atheist physics said momentum is conserved. That's the whole reason why Leibniz was objecting, you fuckhead. All right. So anyway, so he says to me, okay, I tagged you in my response video, but I'm not sure that it works. I'm notifying you by this email. I couldn't care less. I mean, why do I really don't want to argue with some belligerently stupid fuck who's trying to tell me what Descartes said, and he takes quotes that are sort of out of context a little bit and tries to imply that Descartes thought 200 pounds was 400 pounds. When, no, Descartes wasn't an idiot like you. Descartes didn't think that you... well, we'll show the example again. Descartes wasn't stupid enough to think that you put 100 pounds on the scale and you have 1 unit of energy, and then you put 100 pounds on the scale and you have 400 units of energy. He wasn't that fucking stupid. He knew that 200 pounds was twice as much as 100 pounds, not 4 times as much. Fucking idiot. Okay, anyway. I tried to show why Newton disagreed with you, so it's just a lie. I'm defending Newtonian mechanics and Descartian mechanics that are based on quantity of motion being conserved. That's an absolute fucking fact. You're just lying and distorting anything to try to pervert that into some kind of non-truth. There was a real controversy. France even had a contest to try to resolve the controversy by having scientists submit papers to prove it one way or the other. It's a real controversy, went over hundreds of years, essentially 100 and something years worth of controversy, and you're pretending it didn't exist. And it's just too stupid. I should not have to explain how, yes, the argument did exist. All right. Descartes admitted how his ideas could not be experimentally verified. So where did you pull that quote from? And I'm sure he didn't mean his ideas about everything. I'm sure he meant his ideas about some specific circumstance. You lousy, stinking, cheating crook of a lousy, cruddy human being. Okay, a couple of things to add. You can see that momentum disappeared. So it's just bullshit in one of the collision experiments done by Newton. So now he's going to the colliery where Newton clearly states, if I may say so, that is, if I may change the thought experiment and add 2 more units of energy. So I've already been over this. So he's just, again, quote mining for the purpose of cheating the argument. 4 paragraphs ahead of this sentence, Newton clearly states twice the force, twice the velocity. 3 times the force, 3 times the velocity. Clearly states it. So there's no confusion that he thought something else, you lying sack of smelly, crappy, shitty, fucking goddamn garbage. I mean, what are you, embarrassed that you disagree with Newton? Is that why you're doing? Why are you trying to pretend that Newton agreed with you when he didn't? Okay. In the previous page, Newton writes, so he's doing it again. By the same together with the third law, sir. So this doesn't even say anything. He's just pointing out that Newton was acknowledging all these other scientists. So Sir Christ, Wren, Dr. Wallace, and Mr. Huygens. So this is, so this is another guy who just kind of cheats. This is like when people pull quotes from Einstein, when Einstein was 25 versus when Einstein was, 55. It's just cheating. All right. Clearly, Newton and Huygens completely disagreed when Huygens became a Leibnizian. But it's clearly Huygens was not proposing mv squared until after Newton wrote that sentence. After he wrote that sentence, then Huygens started talking mv squared crap. So obviously Newton wouldn't have referenced Huygens if he knew Huygens was going to become a Leibnizian. Okay. The greatest geometers of our time. This is just proving that Newton was pretty fair to all these guys. Did severely determine the rules and the Congress of reflection of hard bodies and much about the same time communicated their discoveries to the Royal Society. So just imagine, Madame de Chartelet translated this whole book, and you're saying she didn't understand what Newton believed? She clearly thought there was a distinction between Newton's physics and Leibniz's physics, a clear distinction. Yeah, what a weasel you are. Exactly agreeing among themselves for the rules, blah, 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 blah. What a pile of crap. All right. All right, and when did, for example, Huygens say about collisions in hard bodies? Yeah, now when did he say that? 10 years afterwards? Yeah, right. And you think I really should have to pay attention to you? And you don't even have the good quote here. I mean, there's a quote from Huygens where he says, actually, the quantity that is conserved is mv squared. He says mv squared. The square of the momentum, something like that. Why didn't you find that quote, you moron? Oh, God, you're such an asshole. So then he says, P.S. When you compared the velocity in Michael Falwell's video, you were supposed to compare the velocities near the spring. Well, actually, near the spring isn't good enough either. Because they're not falling enough distance, to be able to get an average velocity that's the actual impact velocity. Not high up when the 2v has gained disproportional amount of velocity. Yes, I've conceded I made that error. This is simple physics. Yeah, well, no, what's really even simpler is the fact that the vis visa controversy that many people have written about wasn't about nothing. If Newton agreed with Leibniz, there couldn't have been a controversy, you fucking retard. Okay, but easy to get wrong. According to my estimates, the velocity ratio was almost 2 to 1. Well, almost isn't good enough either. All it has to be off by is technically a pretty small amount when you're dropping one object 1/4 of the distance of the other object. So it's pretty important you get those things right. Let's see. The experiment was very well done and your criticism was faulty. The experiment was a piece of shit. Okay, the whole compression of the spring is 1 centimeter. Okay, and obviously his devices, his zip ties, can wipe out millimeters without any trouble at all. Really easily, they can just wipe out a few millimeters out of a centimeter. So again, you're the fucktard. God, I just hate this scumbag. Anyway, so this is where he does the Descartes thing. So I'll read it again. I mean, it's just so outrageous. Here's also an interesting quote from Descartes. Letter to Huygens. Lifting 100 pounds 1 foot twice over is the same as lifting 200 pounds 1 foot. So clearly lifting. He didn't say launching, right? He didn't say launching 100 pounds. No, he said lifting, right? And so you lift it the same way both times. Both 100 pounds get lifted the same way, and the 200 pound gets lifted the same way. And so obviously the same thing. 2 100s equals 1 200. Or 100 pounds 2 feet, and the 2 feet would be Yeah, I'm lifting it from this height to this height at a constant velocity. I'm not accelerating it. I'm not launching it. I'm not doing any of that. I'm just getting it up 2 feet. All right. So, and then he says Descartes was also a Leibnizian. So this is the kind of liar. He wants some sort of respect, or I should pay any fucking attention. And he posts grotesque lies like that. Descartes was also a Leibnizian. What a pile of goddamn fucking lie shit. So, okay, we'll go look at the video, but fuck this asshole. Well, fortunately, it's only 4 minutes, but what is this? A reading video? Oh, fuck you.
Hello again. My initial idea was to make a video about Newton's corollary number 4.
All right, so I read the whole corollary. I went through the whole thing twice, actually. Okay, physicist Michael brought it up. So the first argument was, okay, this is kind of gibberish. Then I went through it in detail. And again, you can see the part right where Newton says, if I may say, okay, and it's in parentheses. Let's see. It might not be on this. It might be visible here. So he's clearly saying, look, if I add 2 more units of energy, what am I going to conserve then? So the whole thing is talking about conserving a unit of 16 total, and he just basically goes through how you always end up with 16. You can never get rid of the 16. It's always 16. All right, and then he added 2. Just bullshit.
And to explain why it contradicts your idea of conservation of motion.
Yeah, go fuck yourself. Again, it's Newton's idea, all right? Again, he's trying to say there was no controversy, that the Descartesians didn't disagree with Leibniz, that Leibniz didn't hate Descartes. No, none of that actually happened. Fuck you, it did.
But then I found something even better in Newton's Principia, where he is very explicit about what is being conserved.
Oh, fuck you, he is. Fuck you. He's very explicit when he says twice, right underneath the second law, the first sentence after the second law, he says, twice the force, twice the fucking motion. 3 times the force, 3 times the fucking motion. He bothered to say the 3 times part because you knew the audience is so fucking dumb they might be confused if I don't emphasize the point. You fucking weasel.
In collisions. So he did these pendulum collision experiments and found a quantity that was always conserved.
Right, and these aren't real pendulum experiments, you dumb fuck. It's a conversation just about how motion is shared and divided. Obviously, you can't bang a 4 mass into a 1 mass or a 1 mass into a 4 mass. You can't do any of that, all right, and transfer the energy efficiently. So none of that actually happens anyway. I mean, you end up with reflections.
And that is stated here very clearly, leaving no room for misunderstandings.
Fuck you.
So, Newton says, by the congress and collision of bodies, the quantity of motion collected from the sum of the motions directed towards the same way, or from the difference of those that were directed towards contrary ways, was never changed.
Right, and so how is that disagree in any fucking way at all? Every single time there's one of these collisions, you're pretending there's this extra motion in one direction, this extra velocity, this extra energy. No, the momentum is the same. You're claiming, okay, that when the 2 pendulums hit each other, they're going half the original speed. When I'm saying, no, the truth is they're going 1/4 of the speed. So again, you have no evidence for this horse shit.
So, there you have it. Newton would have not agreed with you. So,
All right, so just a big fat fucking. So what? Look, I'm just trying to emphasize the point. Why should I argue with people who are denying 100 years of controversy, documented controversy, hundreds of scientists involved, hundreds of arguments made? Yes, all of them suck, unfortunately, because they didn't have any fucking physical evidence. But they argued levers, they argued pulleys, they argued lots of different kinds of mechanisms to make these arguments. It was a real controversy, you motherfucking little weasel.
Was one of the greatest scientists ever mistaken here? I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either when he overtly and directly says right underneath the second law, twice the force, twice the motion, you fucker. Like he didn't know what that meant, you asshole. Like it was a typo on his part or something, you fuck. Like I said, why should I have to argue with people this belligerently in denial of the goddamn fucking truth?
Another thing that Newton understood was that this conservation of motion was valid for both soft and hard bodies, so it doesn't matter whether the balls are...
Yeah, the rules of conservation of momentum. So exactly how do you conserve it with soft bodies when the soft bodies deform? And obviously Newton had no way of measuring that. But he just presumed the momentum is conserved. You dumb fuck.
Are made out of steel or clay. When they collide, the total momentum is always conserved as a vector quantity.
Bullshit. So it's just absolute bullshit. Newton knew that when they're not moving, okay, and they were moving, and now nothing's moving. I have two things moving, and then I have nothing moving. Newton didn't say, well, that's perfect conservation, zero. Because Newton knew if they were hard things, he'd end up with energy going both ways. So he knew the two experiments weren't the same, you fuck.
But the guy who would have agreed with you was Descartes. So this is from an article by George Smith about the vis viva dispute. And here he's talking about Descartes.
Yeah, and I guess you're telling me that this article you read didn't tell you that Newton also disagreed? This moron is somehow saying Newton didn't disagree when the entire argument in Descartes' time in the 1720s was about Newton. It wasn't about Descartes. Vis visa wasn't about fucking Descartes. It was about proving Newton wrong, you dumb fuck. That's the historical truth. Look, we're going to prove Newton wrong. That was the argument, jackass.
Conservation of motion, which asserts that the total quantity of motion, that is the total quantity of bulk times speed, always remains the same. Speed here is taken to be independent of direction, not a vector quantity. So this is what you believe in, right? Especially if the total quantity of bulk is the same.
I'm not going to play some game with the word speed, okay? Yes, all you have is mass and velocity. I've already said this so many fucking times that what the fuck is this? I'm supposed to respond to this fucking obnoxious piece of shit video when you're just going to waste my set time saying, well, that's what you believe, right? Yeah, duh, fuck.
Same as mass. Descartes.
Why don't you explain how when the Mythbusters crashed the cars into a brick wall and it came out just about perfectly twice the crush, how that was just some bizarre coincidence? That somehow the steel was just strong enough to stop the crash from going any further, and the steel gets stiffer and stiffer. And why don't you make your coincidence argument? They just happened to pick the perfect speed that the steel wouldn't crush anymore. Go ahead and explain it, you fucking piece of shit.
Also came up with some rules for explicit predicting the outcome when two perfectly solid bodies, perfectly separated from all others, come into contact. And the interesting thing is that even Descartes himself recognized that there was a conflict between his ideas and what had been observed in real life.
He had 7 rules, okay? 7 rules for collisions. And it's a little hard for you to write rules that are always going to be consistent, because even the rules like hard bodies doesn't mean anything, because guess what? If you're using different hard bodies, you'll get a different outcome. So it's like the anvil argument. I could say, how many times is a ball bearing going to bounce on an anvil? And I could predict, well, 7 times. But then you put it on a hardened steel anvil, and all of a sudden it's 72 times. So and so it really matters what exactly you're banging into what, whether it's glass or it's steel or it's hardened steel. It all makes a difference, and we've seen it in experiments. We've seen in Professor Lewin's experiment where when the spring isn't there, all of a sudden the carts hit each other and they both go the same direction. There's no reflection. So you plow the one mass cart into the two mass cart, into another one mass cart, and they bounce and leave together. I mean a two mass cart, sorry. One mass into two. And the two carts end up going in the same direction. Fact, asshole.
So he said, indeed, experience often seems to contradict the rules I have just explained. However, because there cannot be any bodies in the world that are thus separated from all others, and because we seldom encounter bodies that are perfectly solid, it is very difficult to perform the calculations.
There you go. So Descartes just said what I just said these are really hard experiments to do. Every substance you use comes up with a different result. So it's hard to make something perfectly elastic, and it's hard to make it perfectly inelastic. So it's a little bit tricky.
Determine to what extent the movement of each body may be changed by collision with others. And the article continues. This defense may have been sufficient for Descartes' followers, I don't know about you, but it challenged others to find rules of impact that experience does not contradict.
Yeah, right. And what are your rules? So again, I've debunked the de Châtelet-Clay experiments. I've thoroughly debunked any notion that because something rolls 4 times as fast, it did 4 times the work. So what exactly are you clinging to? Where is your piece of good experimental evidence for your silly squared crap? Again, will you show me any experiment where twice the velocity is 4 times the energy? Or more importantly, can you show me any experiment ever in the history of mankind where 5 times the force is 25 times the fucking goddamn energy? Show me that one. Show me it taking 25 times the wattage to spin a motor 5 times as fast. Show me that, you fucking little lying, weaselly, pricky, shitty piece of scummy garbage. Or shut the fuck up. Go find something else to do, but, sit there and insult my feet. I mean, you're not talking on the subject. You're just talking absolute shit.
And apparently it was Huygens who, already in the 1650s, understood the rules of...
Okay, if you're saying Huygens said it in the 1650s, then guess what? The science history is pretty lame. It's pretty funny that if Huygens already believed it and already introduced it to the British institution, and he read his paper and said the words, why would Huygens' paper be at all interesting? The rest of it was all religion. I mean, Huygens' paper was entirely just a religious document and had this tiny little MV squared thing in it. Just this little tiny bit. The rest of his document was complete crap. Okay, about monads and solitons and all kinds of other horse shit. There wasn't anything real in it except for the MV squared claim. So why would anybody pay any attention to Huygens' paper if a much more famous scientist, Leibniz's paper, if the much more famous scientist Huygens had already said it? It said it publicly somewhere.
Elastic collisions. So he stated that what is being conserved in elastic collisions is momentum as a vector quantity, but also
So wait, okay, so here he said momentum. He said the word momentum, and now you're going to try to say that he meant mv squared. The quantity of motion that two hard bodies have may increase or diminish by their collision, but when the quantity of motion, so that's what they all called it then, there's no energy word, Okay, in opposite direction has been subtracted. There remains always the same quantity of motion in the same direction. So again, all of this makes no sense, but he's just basically saying the momentum can't change. Okay, so if this goes in this way and this goes in this way and has a certain momentum, you can't change the total momentum moving. All right, so that's clearly not a so here it says it, square of the velocity. So this is the important one. Why did you even bother with the first sentence when this one's the one that has the square of the velocity in? The sum of the products obtained by multiplying the magnitude of each hard body by the square of the velocity is always the same before and after collision. So he's saying
products obtained by
he's saying both things. So what's the point? But yeah, okay, so let's just say, okay, I thought that was a later Huygens quote. You're saying that's a 1650s quote, so it's 30 years before Leibniz showed up. Now, why the hell didn't somebody already argue it then? Why vis visa? Why the big controversy? Because he called it vis visa? What the fuck? Why do you think Huygens' statement didn't mean anything and somehow Leibniz's statement did? And it certainly doesn't change the fact that obviously Newton didn't agree with it.
Multiplying the magnitude of each hard body by the square of its velocity. That was pretty interesting.
Where was it published is the argument. Because obviously nobody else read it. Okay, I would argue that Newton wasn't aware of it. All right, because Newton wouldn't have agreed with it, just like he didn't agree with Leibniz.
But yeah, to conclude, let's not slander anybody. But
well, you already have. You're fucking trying to force Newton to be a Leibnizian when he wasn't. There's zero evidence that he believed mv squared. There's no documentation you're going to find where he talks about squaring any fucking goddamn velocity for measuring linear motion. He's not going to say that, yes, I put 100 pounds on a scale and then I put a second 100 pounds on, I got 400 pounds. None of that is his belief.
Try to read what they actually said and try to understand what they actually
did. Pervert the fucking historical truth. This minutia about who said it first or who indicated it might be something doesn't have anything to do with the direct fact that once the subject was a subject, once there was a controversy, we know what side Newton was on, and we know what side Descartes was on, and we know what side Leibniz was on, and we know what side Huygens was on. And this goes back to the whole, I mean, maybe in optics I can find something in the optics book, because Newton does talk about other subjects in optics. So maybe he has some clarifying statement reiterating the fact that he believes momentum has to be conserved. Maybe just a reference to his second law. All right. Which fairly interpreted is not F equals ma, it's force equals momentum. All right, fucking weasel. All right, let's see if there's any comments. Fucking retards. Logical. So he has to always use my name. I mean, so, okay, I'm not going to watch any of your videos. All right, this is the last one I'll watch. So you either delete that or I'll never watch another of your videos ever. Okay, but there's no reason for me to take this. Doxing is not a clever argument tactic. He has no right to do it. You have no right, especially you hiding little fucking cunt weasel. All right, you're hiding your appearance. You're hiding your identity. How the fuck do you think you have the right to do that shit, you fuck? God, you people are such weaselly, turdy, fucking pieces of crap. Ugh. Do not email me, you fuck. Okay, enough of a video. I shouldn't engage because they can't do anything credible. They can't say anything with integrity. They can't fucking paraphrase you correctly. They're just lying scum. Ugh, I hate this planet. All right. So, till the next time and such, and so forth and whatnot. Get what you motherfucking deserve, you pieces of shit.